All right. Visa Bulletin has moved forward a little bit, which is we'll take it, but obviously it has left off also others behind. I'm Sam Shihab with Shihab Burke, and with me,
Brian Burke, also Shihab Burke.
we're going to talk about Visa Bulletin release. This is an important release for us. Everybody was waiting for this release, Brian, because
Yeah,
everybody's saying, you know what, it's going to be some forward movement, and there has been some forward movement. And let's take it one step at a time. Obviously, the big news is EB1 India,
yeah,
as expected.
yeah.
It has definitely moved significantly from final action date from March 1st, 2021 to October 1st, 2020, Brian.
Yeah, so that moves a forward movement of about November, December, January, February, March, April, May. Sorry, November, December, January, February, March. 5 months.
Yes.
5 months. So pretty darn good. And Sam, I guess the fundamental question is, hey, why is that happening?
Well, we talked about it last time. I think clearly they finally said rest of the world EB1 is current, meaning they have excess,
Hmm.
and every quarter they move them across before they move them down. And when they've moved them across, it goes to the most backdated or most priority date backed up country or most country impacted by the backlog in the EB1 category,
Hmm.
and it is India
India.
EB1.
Yeah.
So India takes it, and we said last time, or maybe the previous week, that that will continue to be the case until India matches China,
Yeah. Which is not
and
too
then they
far.
move together at the same time
Yeah,
after that.
which is not too. They're not too far apart right now. They're okay. They're maybe got a year and a half between them, but still, it is. It
A year and a
makes
half is a lot of time.
well, a year and a half is a lot of time. But hey, Sam, you know it's also a lot of time. 5 months of movement on the Visa Bulletin in any category.
Yep.
That's huge. And
Yep.
I mean, it's not. We are not in a time right now when we have unprecedented new visa availability like we saw in October 2020,
Yep.
for example, or all across the COVID pandemic impacted years.
Yep.
So I'm going to take that. I'm going to be pretty darn happy about that. And again, as long as demand seems to be relatively low for the rest of the world, it's going to keep on moving across there. So maybe then we also talk about we look at what's happening in the EB2 category then. And
Go ahead, Ryan. Yep.
yeah. So I'm again looking at final action dates because final action dates, matter most to me. I think and that's when what people are waiting for, and they're in my inbox.
Hmm.
Some people are excited to get their green cards filed, but fundamentally, there's a lot of people out there who filed green cards, long pending ones, for a couple years and waiting for their final action dates to come up. So I'm going to zero in on India first. Went from March of 2012 last month to April 15th of 2012, so a month and a half. Pretty good. Again, that's not any sort of massive. There's no rollover there from no roll down from EB1, and there's no roll across from rest of the world because EB1 is backlogged in some categories, and the rest of the world is backlogged in the EB2. But I am happy with the amount of movement, Sam. A month and a half is always good for me, and we've been seeing these dates slowly creep forward, generally speaking. And I guess the big thought I have there is, well, I kind of expect to see these dates creep forward at a good clip because we've been on these dates before. We people with priority dates of beyond 15th of April 2012 EB2 India category have gotten their green cards because the priority dates were there, they were current, and now we're just sort of creeping our way back up to where we were. So I'll take the good movement there, but I want to touch base, on really kind of everywhere else, China and the rest of the world. I mean, China EB2, it moved a month as well. I'll take it. Comparable to India, really. And the bigger movement, a little bit bigger movement anyway, is final action dates, rest of the world, from November 2022 to January 2023. More like pretty close to 2 months there. Which again, is good in my book. I mean, fundamentally, Sam, if you're in the EB2 category, you kind of desperately want to see rest of the world become well. You want to see yourself become current first. But if you're in the India or China backlog, you wouldn't mind seeing rest of the world become current because that means those extra visas roll over to you.
But here's the peculiar thing, Brian.
Yeah.
Um, the rest of the world in EB2
Hmm.
is ahead of EB3,
Yeah.
the rest of the world,
Yeah.
and we have quite the reverse for India.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that EB3, rest of the world, is just more backlogged and not moving as quick.
Well,
Um, but
oh,
the dynamics are the dynamics. The numbers are the numbers, I guess.
well, this goes back to that. I mean, my mind goes back to the old conversation where USCIS in their employment-based green card FAQ says, yes, 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 yes. We know that we know where that people are in multiple categories. We know exactly where they are, right? I still maintain, and I know you do as well. I'm pretty sure you do maintain skepticism on that by virtue of the fact that practically speaking, Sam, when it comes to at least in our universe here, when it comes to applicants from India, how many of them would you say qualify end up in the EB2 category, Sam?
Um, we're most of them, right? I
Yeah, the
mean, I
vast the
mean,
vast
how
majority.
many do we don't do AB3 India?
I mean,
Almost
we do, but it's a disappointment.
not enough. Yeah.
So many folks from India come to first of all get their masters in the United States. That's a very common trajectory there, and the rest of them, those who come with a bachelor's, will typically come with significant experience in their home country prior, meaning they're
Yep.
going to be eligible for the EB2 category.
Yep.
So again, I am always taking that EB3 being behind with a grain of salt there, and they're still pretty close, 4 months apart. But I just don't know how much I buy into it. Now, Sam, I am thinking about. I like it when things are close to are close to current, so I can speculate about them becoming current. Right? How do you feel about EB2 rest of the world, which is really kind of about a year off of current right now?
Well, I think it's probably heading in the right direction. I mean, obviously, it has moved.
Yeah,
Final action date, rest of the world, EB2 was November 2022,
yeah,
and now January 2023. That is for me, is what 2 months, 3 months move in a quarter. So to me, if you want to keep that straight line projection,
well,
uh, we're not going to become current
oh yeah,
for a couple of years.
you're right because well yeah 2 months 2 months for a quarter, and well yeah that's 1 month short I guess that is
Every,
it
every
that's
time, yeah, every quarter we're moving, we're not moving as much
yeah
in time. So we're kind of in the relative
yeah
distance between the time movement and the Visa Bulletin movement is the gap is increasing, not decreasing
yeah I,
for the rest of the world.
it's always an interesting dynamic here. I'm looking at I'm just zeroing in on moving myself mentally to the EB3 category, and I see myself looking at EB3. Rest of the world goes a month and a October, no, about 2 months, right? India moves forward a month and a half. Mexico and the Philippines move forward as much as the rest of the world. China EB3 stays the same. Final action date. A little bit, I don't know, infuriating for folks in that category. What do you make of that? How do more visas become available? But as they should. I don't know if you have an answer to this, but how do more visas become available if the dates stay where they are?
I guess more applicants, more applications, right?
Yeah, I guess I
I
can't.
mean, yeah.
Here's an
So
interesting.
there is an increase. There is an uptick in green card applications, although there's a downtick in H-1B filing
Yeah,
across. If you look at the labor certification filings in the last year compared to prior years, which is probably to be expected. We're coming out of a pandemic. None of these projections, if you look at the last 2 or 3 years, really mean anything because we're just coming out of unusual events. But there is an uptick in green card filing across the board,
mm,
and there's a downtick in H-1B filing, which means the downtick in H-1B filing may translate to a slowing down in the green card many years in the future, but not now,
Well, I have an
or
interesting
a few years. But go ahead, Brian.
I have an interesting angle looking at the China EB2 and EB3 dates. So EB2 is in January 2020. Okay, fine.
Hmm.
EB3 is a bit ahead. Sorry, I was looking at last month's. EB2 is in China is in February 2020. EB3 is ahead in September 2020. You know what I think about when I think of September 2020? I think of peak COVID pandemic. And if I'm looking for sort of optimism, ways to move forward, I'm hoping for the people who have September 28 priority dates that maybe there's a dip in perm filings around September 2020 that would allow the dates to move forward, because there were massive disruptions in business in general and in immigration. Maybe some employers laid off. But if that was true, Sam, wouldn't they have been able to blow through September 2020? From this quarter, last quarter, this one, I guess is
Well,
my
you
thought.
mean September 2022?
Well, no, I'm looking. No, I'm
Are you
sorry.
talking about
I'm looking at EB3.
you're looking
EB3.
at EB3 September 1st, 2020?
Yeah, that's peak COVID. I would expect there to be less density of priority dates there, because everybody would throw up their hands and say, "Why can we file these things? Massive layoffs." No.
Here's my take on this,
Okay.
Brian. I think sometimes they simply say, "Well, let's keep it steady.
Yeah.
Let's. We don't have enough information. We haven't done the analysis, or it's just the improvement is not enough." If you notice here that the dates for both India and China employment based
Mm-hmm.
are either the first of the month
Mm-hmm.
or the 15th of the month.
Yeah.
There's no
They don't seem
other
very
date.
scientific. I guess it's scientifically
Well, the
derived.
chunks are 2 weeks, I guess.
Yeah.
The chunks.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a 2 weeks movement, you're not going to move.
Yeah.
And they just decided not to hold it steady this time and not move it. Although they have changed India third preference,
a little bit.
from last month, July, to this month of August um, of 2012. A little bit of movement. But yeah, I mean, completely deciding that China third preference will not move.
It's interesting. It's interesting to me. Again, I mean, we were been sort of talking up the April Visa Bulletin for a while, thinking about should it be moving moving now, and the answer is the hope was it would for everybody, and it moved for most categories. But speaking of everybody likes to ask us, Sam, what's the status of the Visa Bulletin, where is it going, what do you guys think, etc., etc., right? Well, the good folks at the Department of State on the end of the Visa Bulletin did, sort of give us an insight as to what to expect. And what I'll do is I will put it on my screen here, and hopefully everybody will be able to see it. But I'm going to read it out loud anyway. Let's turn that on real quick here. Hey, there it is. Now we're appearing down there, Sam. You may note that we are now behind
Behind the scene.
Yeah, behind the scene. So this is me doing a little bit of stalling as I turn that off. Hey, there we are. Here's what it says. Employment-based categories. Very little to no forward movement is expected in the coming months, since the final action dates for many categories advanced for April 2024. And that's really kind of it. There's other commentary here about family employment categories. The above final action date projections for family employment categories indicate what is likely to happen throughout quarter 3 and quarter 4 of fiscal year 2024. And those are actually, there's family information there as well. Readers should never assume that recent trends and final action date movements are guaranteed for the future, or that retrogressions will not be required at some point to maintain number use within the applicable annual limits. The determination of the actual monthly final action dates is subject to fluctuations in applicant demand and other variables. So basically, if you look to the back end of the Visa Bulletin, they often write sort of interesting things there. And they speak of, for employment-based and family-based, potential movement in the upcoming months, and where they engage in a very, very sort of detailed breakdown for all the family categories,
Mm-hmm.
as well as, worldwide, Mexico and Philippines. And then again, the statement for employment is, well, very little movement because we just gave you it all, essentially. So I guess the answer is, as I see it, is great. And I'm going to put us back up on the big screen here, and I'm going to figure out how to get you back up on the big screen here, Sam, because I'm there. It is. Here's a button. One more time.
All right. The
Um,
third button, right?
yeah,
And
the
now
third.
now we're switched around,
Oh
Brian.
boy. Oh
No, I
boy.
don't want to be a Brian. I never want to be. Here we go. That's a little bit
Hey,
better.
hey! It's great being Brian. But so
But
there's
I mean, the cautionary obviously is very clear, and then they're saying, I mean, I like the usage of um, never assume.
yeah.
Not, I mean, whoever is writing it is just nervous. Never
They're worried
assume the
folks are going to
recent
show
trend
up
in
with
final
pitchforks at
action
their house.
are guaranteed
Yeah.
for the future, or that retrogression will not be required at some point to maintain number.
Yeah.
Uh, so
Take what you've gotten now, and don't count on
yeah.
it to be there even next month. For May.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, we can just completely take it off and shut it down here for the rest of the year.
Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
well, I will be a little bit sad over the fact that they're saying don't look for much more movement for this fiscal year, and I guess that really kind of answers the question. But how can they do it, Sam? They've moved the final action dates to this point.
I think the statement means nothing. I would ignore it. I mean, all what they're saying is,
We have one more quarter to come. That's my beef with it. We have one more quarter before the July.
well, they're telling you we don't know. Don't assume the same. Not, all what they're telling you is assume nothing.
Okay,
Assume
sure.
nothing.
Okay.
And I assumed nothing long time ago.
Yeah,
I assume nothing.
we
Yeah,
generally do not make predictions about the Visa Bulletin, but
yeah,
that's the sort of headline here is you take, well, and this is what they tell us, it's you take what you get right now, eat up as much as you can, because you don't know whether it's gonna whether that's gonna be there in the future. We can take it all away if we need to under the law.
and the State Department doesn't know
Yeah,
because big part of the decision comes from data shared from USCIS.
yeah,
And if USCIS decide to share garbage data, you will
did
have a garbage
garbage data.
visa bulletin,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And so, and then they can come back to the following quarter and they say, oh, we kind of looked at it and we should have discounted this, this, and that. And our numbers are a little bit better. And then the visa bulletin moves in the right direction. And then they hand another, report, and then it moves. So they don't know. Nobody knows. I mean, it's simple. It's basically a guesstimate.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
And it's easy to do that. There's just not an one cohesive electronic system that tracks everything. They just have to pull stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Those. I mean, I have gathered. I guess we do know. We're vaguely aware that USCIS has to access to some sort of Department of State system. I think in order to actually grab those visa numbers when they
yeah.
approve an adjustment of status. But as to how they actually share data, I suspect it's very primitive.
Well, there is a number. There is a number, and they have to go. And back when I used to do interviews, the officer would have to stand up and take 3 steps away from his desk to another computer system, and he would have to fill some information and submit. And I think it come back confirming that a number is
Yeah,
available and given.
yeah.
And then he writes a number, and then typically they used to issue the green card on the spot.
Well, I've experienced that within the last couple years. Well, maybe not with this sort of specific details, but it's I got to go check the system to see if the numbers available. I've heard that within the last couple years, so I
Yeah,
don't
so
think.
probably things haven't changed,
Yeah,
except maybe they've taken these terminals from their offices and they put them in a
virtualize
centralized
them. Yeah,
area
yeah, yeah,
or
exactly.
something.
Yeah,
But and then so because there is 140,000, and when the green card is issued, it becomes 139,999, and so on,
yeah,
because they don't want to give more green cards than necessary, and often they do.
yeah.
And often
Uh,
they do,
we
even with
encounter
that
that
system,
scenario.
they do, and then
Yeah,
they revoke green cards.
yeah,
But yes, so it is 6:20,
yeah.
Brian, and we're kind of trying to kind of keep it to 15 to 20 minutes
I'll
and
talk forever
dive.
if you allow me to. You know.
Yeah, and dive. Well, there's many opportunities to talk, Brian. We still have 40 more minutes to go, and many more Mondays ahead of us.
Mhm.
Indeed. So this is the time when we answer your questions. So this is a great moment where you bring your questions and we are going to answer them. And in details, we don't give a quick, short answer, and we will do the best we can to detail it and also change the facts a little bit to give you scenarios and situations. You have two attorneys with combined experience of over 40 to 45 years
Hmm.
between Brian and myself. So, so that's a pretty good experience here that you're getting for your question. But do not count on our answer because we don't have all the facts. So
We're like the
clearly,
Department of State in that way, aren't we, Sam?
pardon?
We're like the Department of State in that way. We just don't have all the data, right?
We just don't have all the data
Yeah.
exactly. Unfortunately, right?
Yeah.
So we are like Department of State exactly. So please bring your questions. Let's get them answered. Do the best we can. Don't sell the house. Don't quit your job. Don't buy your airline tickets based on our answer. Don't make decisions. Consult with an attorney of your choice to get the full picture of your case. Because, and by the way, don't call USCIS and ask them. You're going to get an outside contractor 9% of the time whose really knowledge in immigration law is very limited.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And if they make a mistake advising you, there's no consequence. There are no consequences.
Yeah.
So do not rely on USCIS if you call them, if they give you an advice. A lot of people think that the answer, really, the real answer comes from USCIS. It doesn't.
Yeah.
But without further delay, let's take the first one.
Yeah. Let's see what we got here. From Pakala Prasad. My wife and kids got AP 512L paper document. For using this, and the passport needs to be submitted to CBP officer. EAD doesn't need to be carried for this trip. So what I'm hearing here is that, instead of getting a combined EAD AP combo card, which was the trend for so many years, that it looks like his wife and family got a separate advanced parole approval. And the question is, do I need an EAD in order to utilize this? And the answer is no. That generally speaking, a paper advance parole is sufficient for entrance to the United States. That's that.
Excellent. All right, wonderful.
Yeah.
Um, Question number two.
Yes.
What's the update for nurse visa for Nigerian nurses? Well, it's an excellent question. Um, there is nothing specifically special about the visas for Nigerian nurses per se. Um, two obviously there are two ways to get a visa um, in the U.S. If you are a foreign nurse, you have to get your certifications and your visa screen, and then you have to go to the embassy and get your and then you may qualify for H-1B visas. Not all nurses qualify for H-1B visa, as you know, only specialized nurses. Um, or you can go through the green card process. And Nigerian nurses now, similar to, they're Schedule A, but they're similar to everybody else. They have a backlog because they have rest of the world backlog on visa availability. So oftentimes nurses are in the EB3 category,
Yeah.
and you look at the EB3 category, and that's basically one of the things that is interesting, Brian. And I
Yeah.
asked you that question earlier, but I didn't want to go too deep into it. It is the nurses that back up the EB3 rest of the world.
Yeah, I figured I
Uh,
would bring up that chart again to illustrate the point, and I'm going to let us stand here in hiding for a minute. But what we're referring to is, the EB3 backlogs, and visa availability is governed by the Visa Bulletin. And for our question asker Charles, who may not be aware, it's basically dependent upon when that case got in line, when their priority date is. So if somebody, the update is the Visa Bulletin. It's what is your priority date? What category are you in? Nigerians would be in the rest of the world category. It's just, depending upon where a particular priority date is,
Thanks, Brian, for that illustration.
Yeah.
And now
So,
you have to go through the magic of putting us next to each other.
Hey, there we go.
Excellent, good job.
Yeah.
So, so Nigerian is follow the rest of the world, and you have a backlog that has started a few years back. You know, there was no backlog for the longest time for
Mhm.
nurses, and now we have it.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on for um, nurses, for Nigerian nurses, as well as other countries other than the Philippines,
Yeah.
U.S., China, and India.
It's backlogged by about a year and a half, but
Yep.
it moved forward a month, a little bit, a little over 2 months. In this Visa Bulletin, and that's good.
Yep.
You know.
All
So
right. Next one, Brian.
yes, sir.
That is the next one is from
From
Jitesh.
Jitesh. Well, hello, and thank you for your videos. Can you please tell us when July 2013 will become current EB2 and EB3?
That's a good question.
Yes.
What do you think, Brian?
Well, let's see here. EB, I'm going to presume India because of the time period of which you're asking. Uh, that's well, I have to sort of abide by what the Visa Department of State has told us. What they are saying here is what they said in
Never
the
assume. They said.
yeah.
Uh,
Uh, I can't see it happening during this fiscal year, considering EB2 India is in India is only in August 2012. At the best in EB3. July 2013. Maybe maybe in the next fiscal year, but honestly, a year is a lot of movement on the Visa Bulletin. I don't know if you can really expect a year of movement on the next fiscal year. I would be inclined to think maybe not next fiscal year, but the one after that. But again, it's very hard to tell. You know,
well, I mean, we're talking about potentially we are going to be looking for some remedy here because we're stuck,
yeah,
and we get close, right? We get close a few
yeah,
times.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean
Um,
that date has been current
mhm,
current before.
mhm.
I imagine Utesh probably has a pending. Unless he wasn't able to file a couple years ago for reasons unknown. That's a case that's probably a long pending green card case right there. So let's keep on going here.
Yeah. So, Jitin Jain,
Yes.
can you please give your best prediction on EB1 India priority date for August 22? Right now, EB1 India final action is March 2021. And the question is August 2022.
About a year and a
So
half.
yeah, so I'm thinking, Brian, that we are going to have potentially, a year and a half, maybe.
That's kind of
Yeah.
where I'm at. I'm saying, that one is maybe within the next fiscal year, and it's why do I say that? Because look at the Visa Bulletin. EB1, rest of the world is current, meaning there is going to be visas from there eligible to roll over to the more backlog categories, being India, and that's that. You know, I don't think it would be crazy for that date to become current in the next fiscal year. I think it has to be. I think you got to cross your fingers for that one. And I don't. And as the Department of State says, there's no guarantees. You know, don't expect. Yeah, you get the point. Yeah.
So just to kind of remind everybody, rest of the world, EB1 remains current today.
Yep.
China is September 1st, 2022. So
Right.
between March 1st, 2021 and September 1st, 2022, it 100% favors India, any unused visas in
Yeah.
the EB1.
Yeah.
Our friend here is looking at August. That's before September, right?
Yeah.
And therefore, once it hits September 1st, 2022, things will slow down at half speed,
Yeah. He
right?
gets.
Half
Yeah. The
speed.
bottom line is, folks from India get to eat at the metaphorical visa trial
Yeah.
before the folks from until September 2022 that they have to share it with folks
Yes.
in the
Yeah.
China backlog. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent.
Yeah. So, from Ricardo, do you gentlemen See EB3, rest of the world, moving 2 weeks per month for a total of 10 weeks, which would get the final action date to February 2023 in September at the end of the fiscal year. Well,
Again, EB3 rest of the world has nurses in it.
most likely,
Um,
yeah.
and let's see here how much it didn't move at all, right? That's the
EB,
one.
no, I think I thought it moved. Oh, here, let me go
Let's
back
see
to
here.
back to
I'm
my
looking
chart.
at my
It moved
dates. Yeah.
from final action date moves from 8th of September 2022 to 22nd November 2022. So that's over 2 months. 2 months and some change there.
Yeah.
You know,
So not enough to make up the quarterly move. So for me, it's moving at a 2 weeks per month. I think that's what our friend Ricardo is projecting. And I would say based on that, the answer is yes. But I am also reminded, and I'll read it again, that readers, Ricardo, should never, that's what they told us, we should never assume that recent trends in the final action date movements are guaranteed
yeah.
for the future. So you, Ricardo, are trying to assume that recent trends are guaranteed in the future.
Yeah.
And the Department of Labor told us never to do that.
Well, I mean,
They,
Sam,
they didn't say don't do it. They didn't say don't do it. They said never do it.
Sam,
But Brian,
I
yes,
have beef with the Department of State here. They say we're going to do whatever we want. It's going to be absolute madness. Don't assume it's going to go forward. It could go backwards. But yet right above that they say very little movement for the rest of the fiscal year. I guess they really need to take their own advice and just say we have no clue where it's going. But again, they do explicitly say very little to no forward movement expected in the coming months, since the final action dates for many categories advanced for April 2024. That's the entire all employment based categories.
my read is correct with your read, but slightly different.
Yeah.
My read is that they have moved all what they will move this year already,
Yeah.
and they don't, because they're trying to avoid not issuing all the green cards.
Yeah.
So it could be also, and we will find out. All right, soon enough we will find out. It could be very well that there will be no movement next quarter,
Yeah.
because if they moved it in the last quarter, there may not be enough time for USCIS to issue those green.
That's a great point. You
Yeah,
move their threat is getting dragged in front of Congress or something, being asked why aren't you giving away all the green cards? And if the answer is well, we didn't move the dates forward enough to do that, you do
yeah,
that. You move the dates forward now to give USCIS and the consulates enough time to actually issue the green cards
yeah.
that they can issue this year.
And with that thinking, if that thinking is correct, I mean, I don't want to give bad news here. I don't want to predict bad news. But if that thinking is correct, maybe they've moved things more forward
Then they should.
than they
And we
should
could see, yeah.
on purposely.
Yeah, and we could see one of those mid-month announcements saying, "Hey, guess what, guys? In September or so, saying, guess what? We're out of visas for the fiscal year. Sorry, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
that's something.
And then we may
That's an
even,
interesting. Yeah,
exactly, yeah.
yeah,
So we may get not a retrogression, I hope, but maybe very little or no movement in the
yeah.
beginning of the year.
I mean, it has happened in recent years where they said, "We're done." We expect. It's a matter. They were started. Maybe it was last fiscal year, or the year before. Basically, in making announcements, it's a matter of we anticipate it running out beforehand. It's a matter of weeks. And I remember going to interviews. This would have been in 2021, I think. It was uh, everybody just sort of not sure whether they're going to be there. I'll have to check. Get your documents in as soon as possible because visas are running short as we're into the
Yes,
fiscal year here.
yes.
Yeah.
All right, the next one, Brian.
Yes, sir. So we looks like we have a single part here. So EB2 priority date April 12. My date is current in the April Visa Bulletin. I filed I-485 and EB3 in October 2020. Okay, we got a story here. Then did TUB in February 2022. Changed company in June of 2022. Then new employer filed a TUB again in August 2022. Can I submit mandamus?
How much delayed is he? So let's see here. So he is now EB2 April 2012. Um,
So he just became current again. He's been. I mean, the story, Sam. If I'm going to cut it short, I see case filed in October 2020, and current again. Not yet current
I
again.
would. I mean, it sounds like from doing tub, it sounds like he was current before. Otherwise, he
Yeah,
couldn't do
this is
tub.
true. Yeah,
So if he's one of those guys that became current more than once before and could not take advantage, and the adjustment, when was the adjustment status filed?
October 2020. So quite a long,
Yeah,
uh,
I'd say
three
this
and a
is
half
a
years
this
ago.
is this is a decent mandamus case.
Yeah. I had I like mandamus because they're fun. They're fun, Sam.
Well, I mean, but
Yeah,
I mean, obviously for him, he's been current before. His
yeah,
adjustment status has been pending for 4 long years.
yeah,
Tub or no tub adjustment has been pending for 4 years,
yeah,
and Visa Bulletin is current. And look at the notation again. Read. Never assume
yeah.
that the recent trends and final action date moves are guaranteed for future, or
That's a
that
good point.
retrogression will not be required at some point to maintain number used within the applicable annual limits. So sounds like to me the hint is we've moved it too far forward and we may have to move it back.
Yeah.
Yeah, just throw in a mandamus and what the heck, or wait another 3 or 4 years
Well, I
until
would
you get
say
your green card.
pursue on all fronts because I had somebody earlier this year. I think he
Mhm,
became current in March or February, and
mhm.
I said, hey, we can do a mandamus for you. He didn't want to get that aggressive, and basically he had us put together a nice package where we sent it to USCIS that basically said in big letters, priority date current now. Please approve my case. A similar scenario to this. Well, and that guy, he has his green card approved
Yeah.
now. So it's but I mean, my honest best course scenario is pursue both. Because the problem with the mandamus action is that the government has plenty of time to consider in their butt and not respond to it for 60 days as well. And yeah,
Well, and we've been drafting mandamus action and sending them to USCIS
yeah,
because sometime um, um, just doing that can solve the problem.
yeah.
Here's the mandamus. We drafted it. We just need to pay the filing fee and file it in court.
Yeah.
It's a 1 day action for us, or you can give us a green card.
Oh yeah, I mean,
And
I just
yeah,
sent one of those out in the last it's for a different kind of family kind of case by
yeah, yeah. So that
last
works
week.
too.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah,
works too, in my
yeah,
opinion.
yeah, yeah.
All right, Ajay Shah.
Yes, sir.
So he has one of two, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
His priority is October of 2012, and he's born in India. He filed during the October 2020 by downgrading my application to EB3. Do you remember that madness?
Yeah, that added extra layer of fun to that cake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A separate I-140 was filed for the EB3, which got approved. 45 was upgraded to EB2 in 2022, one of these yo-yos,
Mm-hmm.
by interfiling because USCIS recommended that we
Mm-hmm.
do that. And if you go to number two, Brian,
Yes, sir.
now it seems I will be current in EB3 since EB2 is behind. What steps do I need to take so that my application gets picked up in EB3? Um,
What do you
so he
think?
downgraded the application to EB3, but filed a separate I-140 for EB3, which was approved. Then I-45 was updated to EB2 in 2022 by enter filing. Well, Brian, what did we say back in the year where everybody said it's not a good idea? We said something to people. What did we say, Brian? File two
Yeah,
adjustments,
yeah,
file
yeah,
multiple adjustments
yeah,
so you don't start chasing your tail because that's all what they do over there is
yeah.
get you in that kind of a bad spot. And they
Yeah, well,
say, you should
it's the
have.
anxiety. It's
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, so having multiple, but that metaphorical, genie is out of the bottle
yeah.
here. And what can you do in
For
this
for
scenario,
those
Sam?
for those who are not in this position, file dual adjustments if you
Yeah,
have EB2 and EB3 I-140s, or if you have a labor certification in which you can file the I-140 EB2 and I-140 EB3, file two of them, so this scenario doesn't happen to you. Well, when he's current, I would say I would yeah, I would do a transfer underlying basis And I might just consider mandamus too.
Yeah, but number one thing, mandamus is on the table for me, and it kind
Yeah.
of the last person we and the other option is to basically wave the flag in their face.
Yeah.
Don't rely upon them to pick up your case. Try to get them to do it by
Let, let,
we'll send it a package.
let's go back and pull the record on when the USCIS advised people
Yeah,
to interfile.
yeah,
Go interfile, run.
yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
too late. You know,
yeah,
remember?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the last time we handled this was, you send a package that hits them square between the eyes saying, hey, pick up my case, priority date's current, here's everything you need to approve it right now, and please do. And it doesn't work for everybody. Every case is different, but it's potential that they can pick up a case and make a decision on it.
Yep.
Yeah. There we go.
Emily Marshall.
Yes. Do we see it likely or unlikely that any of the final action dates getting to the filing date for any categories? With a comment in the bulletin saying little or no movement in the section E employment of the Visa Bulletin. So I think Emily is talking about the gap between dates for filing and filing dates coming together. Well, and we haven't really done that comparison during today's conversation. So, I mean, I'm going to just go down the list here. I'm going to go to India because it's the most backlog category, right? Final action dates for filing, EB1, a month apart. Filing EB2, month apart. EB3, month apart. Other workers, month apart.
Yeah. For me, a month apart is
I think that's doable.
Equals 0.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to match exactly the same date.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think it's possible to get there. I mean, it's not a terrible. They say little to no movement forward, but I would consider a month over May, June, July, August, September, 5 months is little to no movement if you ask me, because historically you used to be seeing it move a week and a half in the bad old days.
Right. So I agree.
Yeah,
I agree, Brian. Yep.
Yeah, I think. Well, let me see here.
Ajay Shah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But he has. Did we talk to Ajay Shah already?
I think we did, but this is a different question from Ajay Shah, I think. Yeah. So one of two. Priority date 1st of October 2012. India. EAD expires December 2025. AP pending, of course. My H-1B expires. Sam, that's a number I want to see. How many pending AP renewals they have right now? It must be
AP has
huge.
To be it has to be a mandamus on these. Yeah. We have to start doing it all. I mean, I know people say, well, it's AP. If I'm filing mandamus, I'm filing for the green card.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
My H-1B expires soon. First, should I file an H-1B as a backup when I have an EAD? Brian.
I don't know if you're going to agree with me on this one anymore, Sam, but I'm programmed to be conservative. H-1B has been good to you. It has kept you legal and working in the United States for probably, with a priority date of 2012, over a decade, right? And sometimes green cards get denied. And if that green card gets denied, you don't have anything to fall back on. Now, green cards don't get denied that often, but somebody's does.
But we've seen it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously, that's what we do, right?
Yeah.
We see those cases come to us. We're kind of the intensive care unit. Whenever something difficult happens, they come to us for help, and we're happy to help. But the question is to Ajay is whether or not he has 2 I-485s pending.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I know there was a prior question. It didn't appear that he had 2.
It didn't appear so.
He had only 1. Yeah. So with having only 1, it's nice to have the H-1B as a backup. It's like when you go and buy insurance for your car. What is the likelihood of having a car accident? 1 in 10,000 cars. Mm-hmm. And you're willing to pay $5,000, $6,000, $4,000 year in and year out. So if you think about it that way, that's a decent insurance policy to me, to pay to have this additional security. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
But if you elect not to do it,
I wouldn't fault.
great
Yeah, I
decision.
wouldn't fault somebody's decision for that. There's opportunities that can be had if you have unlimited employment authorization. Which we're immigration lawyers. We're going to give you an immigration answer.
He always has unlimited immigration opportunities. These are not off the table. So if he has, let's say,
Yeah, that's true.
he wants to go somewhere and there's a great opportunity, I got to jump on the EAD, man. Forget about this H-1B.
Yeah,
Now I'm making $75,000 more
yeah.
here, and this is really great opportunity for me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right. That's always on the table. If
yeah,
it's if the employer, I guess if the employer is willing to file an H-1B, why would you not have a glass of that?
yep.
Yeah, that's a good point.
2 of 2, Ajay,
Yes.
if you can
Bing.
find it. All right. Secondly, go ahead, Brian.
I could be laid off soon after 15 years with the same company. Oh, so close to green card. Yeah, that's awful. If I get laid off before my priority date becomes available, how many days do I have to find a job? And there's a sort of a follow up there from Ajay. Can I be unemployed for a few months if I cannot find a job? Sam, sir?
Well, I don't think I've answered the question, how long can I be unemployed? Because that's a difficult question.
Yeah,
Because nobody knows that timeline precisely.
yeah.
The better answer to a question that wasn't asked, so I'm answering a different question,
Good attorney answer, Sam. Yes.
is please find employment as soon as possible.
Yeah,
Um, how long can you be? As a lawyer, I'm going to argue whatever period of unemployment you have, you end up with your best effort.
yeah,
But um, in my experience, there's no guidelines from USCIS
yeah.
except what they're from time to time they come out and they say there may be no actual job offer
Yeah,
available.
they said in their recent the FAQ from September 2023, I think it was that basically saying, lapses of employment can give us some concern as to the viability of the case, but never say how long. They just enough to scare us, but not enough to give us good information to work with.
You
You know?
walk into this interview with a job offer in hand and a supplement J, right?
Yeah,
Um, you have a pretty good chance to get this case through, but anything beyond 3 months of unemployment, I get nervous
yeah,
because you may get an officer who is trying his best to approve your case. You may get an officer who's trying his best to deny your case. It's just different
yeah,
people,
yeah, yeah,
and these people who are negative, built on a negative energy, can hurt you if
yeah.
you walk in with 3 or 4 months of unemployment.
Yeah. And there's many well-intentioned USCIS officers, but sometimes, they make bad choices. Sometimes they make mistakes about the law. This guy's unemployed for 3 months. He's done. You know. Again, I would rather have a very clean, perfect few gaps. But you're right. The answer is, I'm not going to advise you to stay unemployed. But if you tell me, Brian, I had 6 months without a job, I'd say, well, do you have a job now? Great. You have a supplement J? Fantastic. And if it comes up, we're going to make a full press argument on
Why?
on
But I'm
why.
not. Yeah, I'm not gonna say. Well, well, did I get somebody approved with 3 or 4 months of gap? Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, the other thing that's really interesting, Brian, is the recency of the gap. So, um, if somebody's gap is 3 years ago,
Mhm.
is a big different than somebody's gap is 2 weeks ago.
Oh, sure.
Vis-a-vis the interview and the green card issuance
Yeah.
time. It's just because number one, it's not in focus.
Yeah.
Number two, they're looking at recent history.
Yeah.
Uh, now, arguing the other side, we got to argue the other side. Otherwise, 15 years
Yeah.
of employment.
Yeah.
Okay, 2000 and I'm assuming
2000.
2014 priority date, whatever.
Yeah.
Right, and he has been employed all that time.
Yeah.
How can you tell me?
I was working like a dog for 15 years, and
And now
one little
there's a
gap.
gap.
Yeah.
Yeah. How
What
can
are the
that be?
portability rules for if not for me? Not for
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a strong argument in favor of that employment. But I would not drop my guard and
Yeah.
say, I'm tired. I'm going to take 3 months off.
Yeah, I mean, my first thing is if somebody if they tried to pull some sort of shenanigans, saying, "Oh, you had a gap of employment," I'd say, point me to the point me to the policy, point me to the regulation, point me to the law that says, that allows you to, as they have a supplement J in hand right now, point me to the policy or law that says you can deny a case for this. It
And they
requires
will
a
not fund you.
job at the time of visa availability, and this interview's not even done. You're not even sure if you're ready for a visa for him.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
you know.
All
Didn't
right.
want to skip it. One from
Good question
Emily.
from Ajay. So,
Yeah,
anyway,
that one got us a little bit
it's a good
fired
question.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
those are good questions, so
yeah,
people understand. Yeah,
yeah,
we like
yeah,
we like questions in which
yeah,
are we like difficult questions.
yeah.
Emily,
Yeah,
also, them not moving EB2 rest of the world filing while moving India EB3 filing date is an indication that they are thinking for the next 5 months only 1 month movement for EB2 rest of the world.
yeah. I mean, so
Okay.
Emily, again. I was focusing on India, but I'll look at the rest of the world. EB1 is current, a month difference. EB3 has a pretty big gap for rest of the world. December, about 2 months, and about the same for the other EB3, the other workers category. Um, um, I'm inclined to think they can close that gap, and that will be the end of it. Still, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Again, I gotta trust what the Visa Bulletin is saying at the end there, saying little to no movement. Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
I'm gonna keep it going. Well, I like putting nice words up on there. Absolutely love the work you're doing. Thank you so much. Well, thank you, RJ. Appreciate it. Yeah, yeah. If we hope it's obvious that we usually have a fun time
We
doing
enjoy
the
this. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It's been a long
Uh,
day for us in the office here with the H1B registration, Brian.
yeah,
And we got a new employee here that joined us today, and we were just helping her
yeah.
out. And that, yeah.
A fun day. But I'm
So yeah,
excited
so
about
that's
her.
exciting. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So it's been a busy day for us.
yeah. So I'm going to go to the next question here from Jitesh. Hi, Sam and Brian. Your videos are great. Well, thank you. When do you think July 2013 priority date will be current for EB2 or EB3 categories? Any chance it will be in October 2024 in the upcoming year for it? So I think we kind of addressed maybe pretty much this exact date in an earlier question, didn't we? And basically, they are saying the Visa Bulletin at the end is saying little to no movement during this end of this fiscal year. So,
Yeah.
presuming you're coming into October 2024, the same dates we are right now, I don't think you're seeing that big a jump. I think I'd come back to my answer of maybe not next fiscal year, but the one after that. And I don't mean to be I will cross my fingers for you, but I just don't see it coming in October 2024.
July 2013, jumping from early 2012.
12. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a long jump. That's a
Yeah.
big one,
Yeah. I mean,
unfortunately.
it's a little bit less than a year from, EB3. It doesn't sound impossible. I think there's factors that do favor it, but it's just a tough one to swallow.
Yep.
Again, crossing my fingers for you
Yep.
there. Well, Sam, this is a question directed to Sam, and you are Sam. So I'm going to put it up here, and you shall be the designated Sam who answers this.
My passport, well, doesn't say Sam on it, but that's
It said
fine.
Sam. That was you missed it there. You may have blinked. This
My
person.
passport does not have a middle name because my country doesn't use it in passports. My biometrics appointment has the middle name. Is that an issue? No, it should not be
Yeah,
an issue
yeah,
whatsoever.
yeah, yeah. My general rule of thumb, though, is you're typically speaking, your form should match your passport, because but that's I'm not really worried about
Get
it.
the first name, get the last name, and I'm sure he can show some resources showing the
Yeah,
middle name. The passport does not use the middle name. They're
yeah.
aware of that.
USCIS will basically, if they haven't asked you a question about it, they will answer the green card. They'll issue a green card to you eventually in whatever name they can. Because I've had them say, "Hey, you put this on your forms, but this says your birth certificate, and actually you may get it in your based upon my anecdotal experience there, you may get it with your middle name on it if your birth certificate
Yeah,
says
I
that."
think
Yeah,
so.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So
All right,
From Rohit. It's addressed to guys, and it's one of the members of the guys. I will take this one then.
do it.
The state of Colorado has recently started the FAMLI paid leave program, and we contribute to it from our paychecks. Will using this program while on H-1B or GCEAD be counted as public charge?
Excellent question. Um, I don't have firsthand knowledge of the state of Colorado family paid leave program.
Yeah.
Uh, most paid leave program by most states has two components, um, where the second component kicks in federal funds. Um, to the extent that federal funds are diverted to you, you should avoid that.
Yeah.
A better answer would require a closer look at the family paid leave program
Yeah.
that you contribute to. And if it's 100% paid by your contribution, then I do not see a
Or
public
by
charge
you?
issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So if it's, if it's 100% your contribution, no other funds coming into it, and that's basically what they use.
Yeah.
And all states have that type of a program, but a lot of time your contribution goes the first 8 weeks or first 6 weeks, and then additional weeks there's money from the federal government that comes in. So you have to be careful not to get into that second half to avoid even coming into it may not be an issue to avoid any issue. So you need to have a little bit better understanding of the family paid leave for the state of Colorado before we can answer that question. And I would start digging deeper into where the funds come from, at what point in time, and it's probably available online. Other funds kick in is going to be the most important part for you.
Sort of a follow-up question. I think GTS should already ask this one, but yeah. If my priority date is 1 year or less than 1 year away, what should an EB2 or EB3 applicant, EB3 or EB2 applicant avoid for a faster final adjudication?
Well, 1 year away in priority date time can be more than 1 year.
Yeah, 3 years away on
But
the calendar.
having said that, let's answer the question.
Yeah.
What do you think, Brian?
Look at your case, see what's missing. I mean, common things that you might submit that might make them happy to and easy to approve a case are medical exams. If your medical exams are out of date, they're going to issue an RFE on those. You know, and at the same time, they might request an updated supplement J if they haven't heard where you're working for a while. They like to do that. And it's very possible to, again, I just did this a couple months ago for somebody. When their priority date came up, we said, hey, it's a risk, but gather your medical exams, get a new supplement J from your employer. We'll send it off to USCIS and say, hey, look at this, look at me. My priority date's current. Here's everything you need. Take an easy case and improve mine, you know? And you don't have to wait for an RFE. It's all here already. And that was something they were able to do for us. Yeah.
So one of the things I would add, an excellent answer, Brian. I would add is maybe not now yet, but maybe as you get closer, it depends on you, is to have a review of your adjustment application. So that's something that we do a lot of. Is basically all these adjustment applications are filed during crunch time when they move priority dates in crazy fashion. And you're a very competent lawyer that put this case together. May have had amazing workload at the time. My light is off in my office again, but I'll keep going. So an opportunity to have an attorney start looking at this case when they're not rushed and you're not rushed, to look at the Q&As, to look at the facts of the case, to look at the labor certification that's attached, the I-140 perhaps, maybe the labor certification is not attached. Just to have a look at the case and say, this case has these few unanswered questions that can potentially raise an RFE, or, this needs to be attended to now. A heck of a lot better than doing it last minute.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I would say.
Yeah. I guess when there's you don't want to exactly waiting to fix those problems. Later is everybody else is going to be rushing then as well.
Yeah.
So a question here, a Q&A classic. February 13, 2013 EB3. When will it be current? That's not so far off. I wouldn't be so crazy for me to see that come up in the next fiscal year. It's in August of 2012 right now for India EB3. It's not. That's what is that? 5 months? No, four. That's 6 months off. You know, I wouldn't say it'd be crazy for it to come up in the next fiscal year. Sam, what do you think?
Well, EB3 India is going to move on EB3 numbers.
Yeah,
And when it moves, also there's going to be transfer underlying basis.
this is true. This is very true.
Um,
Yeah,
so you have, and then if you're looking at the EB2, it's close. It's
yeah,
close. So there's not a whole lot of transfer jumping from EB2 to EB3, but some will.
yeah.
Rest of the world is not going to help EB3 India. Um, on if we're lucky, we'll get it next year. I would. Unfortunately, I'm not as optimistic as you are.
I am very that falls in the category of my mind wouldn't be blown if that came up sometime during the next fiscal year. So somewhere between October 2024 and September 2025. But I give it a much better chance, in the fiscal year. How about the fiscal year thereafter? It
Yes.
doesn't seem crazy to me that it could come up, next year. But don't.
Because the
Department of
reason
State
you have
says
to understand one
really
thing,
we're doing
Brian.
nothing. Yeah,
If it moved that much and EB2 did not move that much,
yeah.
you're going to be a lot of transfers.
Well, I'm presuming EB2 is going to be moving it.
It
Could
has
move
to
at a
both
similar
move at the same
similar
time.
clip. Yeah,
It has to
yeah,
be
yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah. Okay, I'm going to keep on going here. Not a question where we would really answer here, but maybe something we talk about generally. How much do you charge for mandamus? I'm hoping to file due to long
We
delays in my case.
love to talk to you, or you should go to an attorney of your choice. I mean, no problem. But we don't talk money in this show. This is a good, relaxing, substantive discussion,
Yeah,
and we want to keep it that way.
yeah.
But you want to talk to us, go to our website. You'll be able to contact us, and we'll
Yeah,
be able to.
yeah. I mean, there's 30 different answers to that question depending upon the facts of your case.
And Brian and I and my team would tell you in honesty whether your case is viable or not before I even give you a fee.
Yeah,
If your case we don't think you have a
yeah.
good case, we just tell you.
Well, yeah. It's
We
it's it's
will.
work for us to write up a quote. We're not gonna
Yeah.
bother.
Hey, the case is not good,
Yeah,
or the case is good, and this is going to be the cost. So,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, a couple more here. So,
Brian, you're generous. We're hitting the 7:03 clock, but
yeah. So,
I like what you're doing.
okay,
A
all right.
couple more questions, and then
Yeah, yeah.
we'll call it a day.
Okay. It's different sort of question. F21 priority date July 28th, 2020. Documentally qualified 26 May 2021. Ethiopia. How many months until I get an interview letter? Ooh, boy.
So this is similar to cases that we resolved recently by taking a writ of mandamus. So this is a case that screams
Oh
file a
yeah,
lawsuit.
F21. I got it. Sorry, I got to look at the F.
If I have to guess, it is a spouse case of a green card holder.
Yeah, F. Yeah, maybe that is a spouse of a green card holder, and that priority date is July 28th, 2020, and that
Hmm.
is rest of the world. That would be current right now,
Hmm.
uh, for sure. Yeah, I mean,
But
you're
how long has it been current in terms of that's the question because it was current and then it dropped out and then back again.
yeah,
So a close look. It honestly, I cannot answer that question because what's going to happen at the consulate and how much workload they have is one question, and if it's been current for quite some time, I got to look at the history. I don't have that.
yeah,
I would definitely favor start um, creating noise, uh, and one
yeah,
of them is to draft a writ of mandamus and say we're filing it in court unless you take
yeah.
this file and approve it. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. Have you heard that term before?
I have. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah,
If the wheel makes noise, that's where the grease goes.
yeah,
You want to be squeaky. Um, you
yeah.
know,
there's options, yeah, F2,
Yeah.
it's probably F2A, and if you have a permanent resident spouse, they have Congress people, for example, who you can complain to and
Yes.
say, I've been
Yes.
waiting forever, make it happen for me.
Yeah.
Maybe take one or two more here, and we'll call it. We'll wrap it up here.
Sure.
Uh, from Sriku. Hi, Sam. It's a Sam. I applied for H1 cap exempt. If approved, will my start date be October 1st or before?
If you are cap exempt, meaning that you're working for a higher education institution or nonprofit affiliated with a higher education institution, because the cap exempt can mean more than one thing,
Mhm.
you do not have to wait until October 1st
Yeah.
to start working. You can start working um, if you're on an H1B and you're transferring right away, or if you're on F1, for example, or a B visa and you file
Yeah.
for an H1B, is when the H1B is approved.
Yeah.
But
Whoever's
you can start
filed
right away.
filed that case, if the case has
Yep.
already been filed, they have that answer for you. They have a requested start date on that
Yep.
H1B.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, Sam,
All
it
right.
is it is 7:06. We didn't get to every question today, and that's flattering because we try to get as many as we can. But remember, every now and again, we do one of our all questions answered session, which leaves
Yeah.
Sam and I wondering whether we're going to be here until 10 o'clock. And
We
you know,
we have done one recently, and
yeah, we did one
everybody
maybe
was
2 weeks
kind to
ago.
us. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody was kind
So
to us. We were done at about 7 o'clock. But sooner or later, the perfect storm of audience and our all questions answered
we
session.
may maybe all question answered or until midnight, whichever occurs first
Oh,
in
Sam,
time.
I got to be on. You give me a cup of coffee, man. I'll go be on.
Well,
You know,
I'll just take a nap. You just answer, and then I'll wake up.
you'll wake up eight
We can
o'clock in the morning. I'll
yeah,
refresh, and you'll just take over the next shift. I
yeah,
understand.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, that we end today's session. Thank you so much, guys, for listening to us. Monday, 6 o'clock. We'll bring another topic to you and answer your question. Hopefully, it will be beneficial to you, and sometime we learn from you as well. As a matter of fact, every time we learn from you a bit, so that helps us as well. You guys have a wonderful rest of the week.